I'm joined by Coach Evans and Coach Williams here to finish out the era. And the last time we were together, we talked about the 2000 state tournament team and the 2002 state tournament team, but we didn't talk about the 01 team. And on that team, Josh Frazier, Pat Frazier, Sam Brown, Brian Sikora, Eric Anderson, Nick Myers.
Eric did not play that year.
Okay, he didn't play that year.
Yep.
Khalid,
Yep.
point guard. What do you recall from that year? And he had a lot of talented players that would go on to play not only basketball in college, but also football players too.
Go ahead, Sardik.
You go ahead. You play.
You played Cretan in the state tournament.
Yeah, I think Nick was nicked up, I think, wasn't he? His ankle was. Did you hurt that in the finals,
Yeah.
or semifinals?
He twisted it in the Cretan
Twisted the Cretan game as well. I think that's a team that I think we just got better as the season went along. I think, if I remember correctly, we made a lot of progress over the course of the year with some kids that, Sam Brown in particular, I think when he was a ninth grader, he might have been a C team player, and he just great work ethic, and he was a kid we couldn't take off the floor. He rebounded for us and put back buckets and could score for us and defend pretty well too. And I think that was a team that I think best exemplifies team play. Everybody brought something to the table, and no one superstar in that team. I guess it was a good team effort.
That was the year we started really early. Didn't we play in Red Wing?
That's the year that we played a game. I think it was. And the year before we were in the state tournament.
Yep.
And we had some kids coming back with a lot of experience, and so we figured Craig Uveling down at Red Wing said, "Why don't you come down to the our early bird tournament?" And after 1 week of practice, or a week and a half of practice, we decided, well, let's go out and play. Well, that was a mistake. I don't care how much experience you have back playing a game that early in the season. We got beat by, was it Rushford? Rushford Peterson?
And Red Wing.
And Red Wing too. Well, maybe you split.
Yeah,
I don't know, but we played two pretty good teams down there. But that's still too early to play a basketball game. That's brought to my attention the value of practice, having a good full 2.5 weeks of practice at least before you play your first game.
Okay.
We did not go to Bethel that year, did we? I don't think Bethel was around until the next year.
Well, Bethel has always been around. A couple of years we decided not to go. We decided to just stay at home and practice instead of worrying about an opponent to prepare for during the Christmas holiday break. We use those 2 weeks just to get ourselves better. Not worrying about game strategy and stuff, just working to get ourselves better. Bethel was involved because my dad took teams to Bethel for several years before that.
So you get to the state tournament, and this is before, now they seed the state tournament, and they didn't seed the state tournament at that point.
We had beaten Edina in the region final. Edina had a pretty good team too. We played very well that game. I think we beat them pretty well. In the previous year we played Tartan, of course, and they would have been the #1 seed that year.
Right.
And then we got Cretan, and they would have been two for sure, I bet.
What do you remember about Joe Maurer was on that team? They had a really good shooter.
They could just flat out shoot the ball.
Yeah.
I mean, they were smart.
They had a little guards. It was
Sean
Sweeney and Steve Sir. I think went up to
Steve Sir.
San Diego
Sean Sweeney, I
State
think, coaches in the NBA now.
I think you're
Yeah.
right.
Oh, he does, okay.
And then they had a guy that wasn't too bad named Mike Keating, which was just he could shoot and clean up around the basket. And Maurer, I remember one of his first shots. He's probably a guy that picked up a basketball when the season started, but he throws a step back on his first shot and drills it. And they were just very smart. They played really well together. We did too, but they were a very good team.
Okay.
Very good team.
With your teams that were state tournament teams, and it goes beyond just your era, it could be your dad's era too. Can you identify some characteristics that those teams had in common? What made them special teams?
Well, I think the emphasis on the defensive side of the court, I think, and the kids buying into that. Don't you agree with that?
Mm-hmm.
Everyone always some of our state tournament teams, we weren't always one of the best defensive teams in the state, but I think the kids bought into what we were preaching to kids about the importance of that end of the floor, and I think we were pretty solid. I think teams had to prepare to play us, I think, because I think we were pretty sound defensively.
The kids were really just solid kids too, and I think embraced each other. You know, the younger kids, the older kids embraced them. I remember, particularly in 2000, how Tim Brown would really embrace Brian Sikora. You know, Brian was getting down on himself or whatever, but just they'd pick each other up, and it was kind of a cornerstone of those groups that we had. And
Did they like being around each other? I mean, did you feel like those teams were buddies off of the court?
To some extent,
as
but I
well.
think basketball's a long season over 4 months, and going 6 days a week, you develop some friendships you wouldn't have had maybe if you weren't involved in that winter sport. And I think another thing that which was common thread among all those state tournament teams is we had a good, the years that went to the state tournament with a good group of seniors, we had a good group of juniors as well.
Yeah.
It was just, it was two good groups back and forth. So practices were, sometimes some of our better opponents were on the other side of wearing a different color jersey in practice. So we got pushed well in practice as well.
Sure.
we had some nasty too. I mean, I always preach that with the kids. You got to have that edge, and we had quite a few kids that had that edge, and they're the ones that I think can help push kids and teams over the top. I was trying to think in particular of a story for you, but I don't know, maybe it'll come to you in a minute. But you know, I just think that edge is so important, and you look at it even in the teams today, and we had that. And like you said, in practice, I mean, you know, peers probably want to hear this, but I mean, we had fights. There were battles, you know, guys getting kneed in awkward places and taking elbows to the face, and, you know, fists were swung and guys were taken down, and, you know, we had to get in the middle of that. But
Not with the intent of these guys want to hurt each other, but just
it's
competition.
just a competition. Yeah.
Sure.
Competition.
Yeah.
So you've been the head coach here since '96, and you've been here the whole time. What's the biggest change that you've seen since you started in 1996 to present day?
Well, I know when you first came over with us, you always thought that these Jefferson kids, they work hard. They work hard. They don't have to be told to work hard. They just know what's expected of them, and they work hard. And I think maybe during our tenure here, we've had, well, I can think of 1 year in particular that for the better part of a season, we were coaching effort, not coaching basketball. We just had a group that didn't want to work very hard. And you know, they finally bought into it. And I think they reaped the rewards of that work ethic. But we've always been blessed here at Jefferson with good kids who come from good families that you know, kids aren't afraid of a little hard work. We've always said that you know, some kids hear the word hard work and they shy away from it, but the kids we have at Jefferson here, they hear the word hard work and they get excited because how much they're going to improve because of it. And we've always had those kids, and that's makes our job a lot easier, I think.
How are you guys different now, today, than when you took this job
Well, I know.
20-some years ago?
Well, 30 years ago, I know when I first started coaching the sophomores, we had 53 some kids try out for the sophomore team, or 50 or 40, something like that, and just an unbelievable number. And we're just not as big a school as we were before. And we talked about the competition we had in practice against the JV team, and that competition isn't as strong as it once was. The kids still work hard, but I don't think we don't have some of that size and that raw athleticism that we used to have here on our through numerous players as opposed to just one or two kids.
I want to go back to that last question, how the game has changed
Yeah.
since we came in. I think defensively we saw a lot more zone in Lake Conference. I mean, now you still see it. Some teams do it very, very well. The defense has gotten really up in your face, extremely physical. You know, it's like we always say, some teams will defend us and they'll foul us 100 times and hoping the officials call 20 of them. You know, so that's the way the defense has been floor, and then is on that end of the floor. But the whole offensive game now is on the 3 line. It's all on the 3 line, and it's getting an open 3 or driving a kick. And you know, you see all the big kids now. You know, that's where they are now.
Yeah, they
too.
want to shoot the 3.
Yeah, and so those are the changes I've noticed.
Okay. So after 2002, call it the Cole era.
We had 2003 was a really extremely good team.
Okay.
2003, we had how many kids coming back? We had basically everybody but Brian, right?
4 stars.
Oh, yeah. Sure.
And I remember Jeff Munichie, who worked for the Timberwolves, they always had this Timberwolves shootout. And I called him up and said, hey, can we get into that? And he said, well, we really want the top-ranked teams in the state. And I said, we're pretty darn good. And we had size and strength and speed and shooting. We didn't have immense amount of depth, but probably one of the smartest teams.
So would that have been like Augustine and Lean?
Dan Wheeler, John Lean, John Beaudre, Andrew Woolley, Matt Omi, Cam Ditlison. But extremely smart team. Some things we did defensively. I think Matt was with us, I think, the previous couple of years that we put some stuff in, and those guys had done it over the course of the years, and they were a very smart group of guys on the defensive end of the floor.
I think we ended up winning our first 18 games, didn't we, before we finally suffered a loss?
Wow.
And
Yeah, we had the Bethel tournament. We went into the championship facing Minneapolis North, who had beaten the state semifinals the year before. And their big guy, Davis, and then Henderson were suspended. And we beat them, and then we kind of rolled. And then we kind of hit a lull, where I think we had lost to Burnsville and then Eden Prairie at the end of the year, and then we lost to Eden Prairie in the region final.
In the region final?
Yeah.
Okay. And then, was it the next year that Cole was a ninth grader? When did you know how special of a player you had?
well, he's a freak of nature, just physically imposing. He's a big kid, and we haven't had too many kids that size walk around our building here, and that's the first thing that was.
Yeah.
He had a lot of ability, but had a lot of things to learn too about the game. And
I remember coming to a game his freshman year, and there weren't a ton of people here, and I was with my Jody, who later we would be, we're married now, and sitting up in the corner with your dad is Bill Self. And so I feel like there weren't very many people who knew who Bill Self was in that gym, and I was like, wow, you've got a really good player if Bill Self is sitting here and he's a freshman.
He's recruiting your dad, doesn't he?
yeah, well, he got a lot of phone calls. I think in Cole's freshman year, I think we teachers would get an hour prep a day, and I don't think really a day went by where I didn't spend a good portion of my prep returning phone calls or entertaining phone calls and entertaining visitors to come in here. And so that was kind of new. It was kind of fun and exciting at first. I think got to the point where these guys would call me at nighttime, and that all the NCAA recruiting rules have changed a lot since then, but they call you at home at all different times, and depending on what time zone they were calling from. And that was kind of exciting at first, but that's, I guess, brought to our attention, hey, this kid is going to be pretty special.
Right.
And obviously he turned out that special too.
My first memories of Cole, of course, was when he'd ride up here with his bike, and he had this little bike, and his legs were way up on his chin. But I didn't even know him, and of course he said changes in the game over the course of the years. And when he was in 7th, 8th grade, we started going to the games. We had lost a few players here and there to other schools, and people would be angry about that. And I think we just kind of felt, hey, we got to take care of our own. We got to be there for them and, take care of our own program, not worry about anybody else's. But I remember going to a lot of games and watching him. Brian Sikora was another one. I think we went to a lot of games when he was younger too. And then, of course, the tournaments when they're here, we did that too. Excuse me, I remember doing that quite a bit. But Cole's a very passionate player about committing to the game. He loved working, the attention, the extra work and stuff like that. He put a lot of extra time in. And then, of course, he had the benefit of all the all-star teams and AAU teams and stuff that he got to go play with.
Can you talk about the 4 years culminating with the state tournament his senior year, and you had a lot of talented guys on that team with Barmore and Ellis Libby and with Moses, I think, was on that team. Was Marcus on that team too?
No.
Okay.
Well, Cole, a lot of talk is being, sports physiologists today are talking about these kids they specialize, they play one sport, and it's, the adolescent body, anybody for that matter, needs a little change and routine. And Cole played a lot of basketball. We encouraged him to play. I encouraged him to play soccer, play baseball, just get around a different group of friends for that social aspect, and maybe just rest his body a little bit. But he played basketball all year round, and he wasn't 100% healthy all the time that we had him here. It was his junior year. He had the stress fractures in both shins, I think it was, and he had to shut down for about 3-4 weeks or something like that. And who knows, a guy that big, 245, 250 pounds, growing still, and legs carrying that weight, and it was hard on his body too. And so we never had him healthy all 4 years he was here. But he had the benefit of going against Garrett Augustine, was a good kid, about 6'5", and then Eric Gusas, a kid that was about 6'8".
John Vaudreuil.
And John Vaudreuil too. So he went to practice day to day against some big kids, and so that helped his cause as well.
His first year in 2004, we had a mix of grades, and we had quite a bit of nice raw talent coming through. But I remember we talked about the kids and what they do for each other. And John Vaudreuil was, in my mind, I think he could have played Division I basketball. I mean, I think we talked to Wisconsin coach Greg Gard and said, "Hey, this." And
he played at Duluth, correct?
And here's a guy that can come in, and he said, "Well, I don't have any scholarships or anything like that," but he was a horse. And I remember he would take Cole under his wing and help him out with stuff. And when the recruiters would come in, the recruiters couldn't come in to see an underclassman, so they'd come in to see Vaudreuil. And John was just really helpful with him on that. And then talk about a kid that's a warrior. I think John's senior year in 2004, when Cole was a freshman, he played with a fracture in his back. I mean, he couldn't elevate, he couldn't do anything, but he was just, he was a tough kid and a wonderful player.
So his senior year, you have a great run that year.
Talking about Cole senior year?
Yeah.
Well, I look back at 2006, and Jeff was mentioning he got injured. We had a good run going. We had beaten Eden Prairie, and then he went down. I think we were out at Eastview, and he went down. He had the stress fracture, and I'm going to kid Cole, and I'll look into the camera and say this because I think his recovery regimen was eating ice cream. But that's kind of funny.
It's true. Probably.
But we had this wonderful run going, and it just took him tough. It took him hard. It was hard for him to get back into the swing of things, and then it was regions. But I do remember Aaron Barmore getting on the court that 2006 year. But guys like Jake Dahman and Steve Wheeler and Matt Schlangen, and I mean, these were guys that put their hearts and souls into it, and I know that they were pretty heartbroken when they couldn't take that next step.
And we played down at the Target Center at West Monroe Timberwolves deals. We played.
It's a team from Wisconsin.
Yeah, Madison Memorial or something. Or Madison. They had that kid who went on to play Wisconsin too. They were one of the top teams in Wisconsin, and we played a pretty good ball game against them. Ended up winning that game, and
this is when he was a junior.
Junior, okay. Yeah. Nankinville was the kid's name. Nankinville from Madison Memorial, I think it was. But yeah, we had a pretty good run his junior year as well, and some pretty good players on that team.
Then did you lose in the region semis, the region
we lost in
final?
The semis. To Eden Prairie.
Okay.
And Ryan Whitman and Ryan.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
Ryan. We took him. We held him down pretty well the first game we played him, and then he. I don't know.
Very good shooter.
Yeah.
Very good shooter.
In the region semis. Yeah.